homemade butter using raw cow's milk right here. So typically you can use raw cow's milk to make homemade butter. As you can see, the cream line. This usually, you can usually see the cream line on raw cow's milk within a day. Typically with goat's milk, it takes 3 to 4 days, and then you can skim the milk, and it's usually not as much as this raw cow's milk, which is okay. Every animal is different. So I'm gonna show you how to make homemade butter using this cream on top of here. So first we're going to skim the cream off of here, put it into this mixing bowl, the KitchenAid, to make it easier to churn the butter. Okay, so now we just skimmed the cream off the milk. It's right here in the mixing bowl, in the KitchenAid mixing bowl. So now we're gonna put this on the KitchenAid, and we're gonna put it on high speed with this one, and we're gonna attach it, and we're gonna whip it up on high speed, and it will start to slowly see it separate more the buttermilk from the actual butter. And then we're gonna put it on low speed once we start to see the butter, because it will literally splash everywhere, okay? Okay, so now we're going to just attach this in here. It's in here. I also have this little protector that kind of helps from splashing. And yeah, that's probably going to go on for at least 30 minutes to an hour. It just depends on the cream half the time. So I just want to stop this to show you guys right there. So it's getting to the whipped cream phase already. Where it's already being whipped up. So at this phase, you could add vanilla extract and some like powdered sugar, and you can make homemade whipped cream, or even use it for like a buttercream icing. But we're gonna continue letting this go to make butter though. All right, so it's probably been about 40 minutes, and you can see here that it is starting to go through another phase. It's getting very close to turning from buttermilk to butter. You really want to watch it because it will spray the buttermilk everywhere, and it's already starting to spray me. So I'm just going to warn you, some people put a dish towel over it, but as soon as you notice it's starting to separate, make sure to turn your KitchenAid down, or it's going to be a mess and a disaster everywhere. So now it's starting to separate, so I'm going to show you guys. See how much liquid it is? And when I slow it down, you can really start to see the buttermilk. Okay, so I just want to show you the next phase. So right here, you really see the liquid and the butter starting to separate. So this is when you want to turn it on low. Okay, now the butter is completely separated, so we're going to take this all apart. So now you see the buttermilk and the butter. So we're gonna set this here. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scrape these edges so that can actually get into the rest of the buttermilk and butter. I'm gonna go over my butter supply. So these are amazing. When you squeeze the butter, it's going to get that buttermilk out, so your butter is more of a solid piece and doesn't get all liquidy. Also, these are awesome butter molds. They actually have lines you can see inside. They have lines for each of the tablespoons, so you can make your homemade butter and still have the tablespoon measurement when you're baking, and it makes it a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and start squeezing this butter out, which is gonna usually a mess. You just squeeze it, and then I will start to put it on here. Usually with cow's milk, it's a little bit different when you are using it to make butter. See how it is, it's kind of crumbly. With goat's milk, it's gonna be more like a solid ball. It just depends on the milk and the type of season and what's going on. Because obviously when they get more hay versus getting more grass, it makes a really big impact on the butter and how the butter is. Even with this, you can see how watery this is already. So I'm still going to be squeezing it out. I'm just trying to get the initial wet buttermilk out. And I usually just keep squeezing and I'll put it in there. So now we're going to keep squeezing the whey out in buttermilk. So I'm actually going to start putting this in the molds. So and I'm just going to keep getting the buttermilk out and putting in the molds and continue this process over and over again, because obviously when you have a big chunk of butter, it's hard to do it all at once. So I'm just going to keep doing this. Okay, so now here is our butter. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on. And we are going to put this in the freezer and probably for a couple hours, and then they'll come out of the molds, and then we'll put them in a plastic bag and we'll just store it in the freezer. That's typically what we do because it's just the best way for us for baking and everything like that. Okay? Okay, so now you guys are probably wondering, what am I going to do with all this buttermilk? So typically what we do is we will save it in the freezer for baking recipes or bread recipes. We love it in our bread. It makes it nice and creamy and fluffy, and we just love it. So yeah, we'll put that in like a quart mason jar, and then I usually just put it in the freezer and de-thaw it whenever we are going to bake cookies or bread or whatever we feel like baking this week. And yeah, so nothing goes to waste. Some of our extra quarts so we can use it for the buttermilk, and then the pantry of everything we've canned so far. We'll do a different video on that, on going through everything with the pantry tour. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill these up. There is a little bit of butter in it, but honestly that doesn't really hurt when it comes to baking. And then I just put the plastic caps on these, and that will help it from expanding and contracting. We've never had any issues with jars breaking or anything like that. So then I just put the plastic lids on. Okay, there you go, fresh buttermilk.